let me introduce the moderator of this panel. Talia Schmidt is the Director of Global Markets of SafeDK, which provides end-to-end platform to monitor and control mobile SDKs. With vast experience in sales, business development, and marketing, Schmidt focused her career on media advertising in the mobile industry. Talia, take it away.
All right, so Gabby actually introduced me really well and probably introduced SafeDK really well. So maybe I'll introduce the panelists, and then they can talk a little bit about themselves and their experiences. And then we'll jump right into mobile advertising. So first we have Dylan Collins from Super Awesome. He's obviously super awesome. That's why his company is super awesome, and he's the CEO. Okay, and then we have Chase from Reality Squared Games and Juanjo from Lab Cave Games. So take it away, guys.
Crowd goes wild.
Woo!
That's better.
Yes, excellent.
Thank you. So I suppose I'm sort of two things. I'm CEO of Super Awesome, and then I'm also chairman of Totally Awesome. And those of you who are very, very eagle-eyed will spot a running theme through those two company names. So
they're both awesome.
Exactly. It's amazing. So we essentially, we are the company that builds the technology for the under-13 digital media ecosystem. So we work absolutely specifically in the under-13 space. We are probably best known for leading and trying to create the kid-safe ad category. So we work with hundreds of content owners and brands around the world, here, all through APAC, North America, Europe, the UK. I don't think the UK is part of Europe anymore. I'm kind of unclear what's going on there. And we specifically have built a huge amount of tech to really turn on kid-safe advertising. So it's COPPA compliant, it's GDPR compliant, it's also content appropriate. Really to open up that sector so that we can drive more revenue to content owners.
Amazing. So you're actually representing the ad networks here for us.
Well, we're kind of a platform. We're not a network. We're a platform. We build the tech.
Okay.
What we do like to think of ourselves as the good guys.
The good guys.
Because we're making sure that really kids aren't being tracked and they're not seeing the wrong ads and everything else. Okay. But yeah, we're certainly part of what we do is definitely kids ad technology. We call it though kid tech.
Kid tech.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you're representing the good guys today.
Excellent, yes.
Are you comfortable with that position?
Could everyone just quote that on Twitter right now, please? That'd be awesome.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Chase. I'm from, as Talia mentioned, Reality Squared Games, or otherwise known as R2 Games. There is no awesome somewhere in the name, but it's fairly awesome
too.
as well.
You're also
right? I can call it
awesome.
Essentially, we are based off in Shenzhen, China. What we do generally is publishing and developing games. And we're talking about mid-core to hardcore games in general. Although every once in a while we publish casual games just to ensure that there is enough games within the pipeline on a yearly basis. So what I do with the company is basically a lot of things. I don't know exactly what my actual role now is, but basically, in a nutshell, it's to fix everything that's broken and to ensure that there is continuity in terms of how the company is being run in general. As far as games are concerned, right now the biggest thing that we're putting out there are hardcore mobile MOBA games. And so that's sort of like the focus for us right now in 2017, as well as mid-core and casual games. It's still going to be there as a continuing business line, and that's where ad monetization comes in for us.
Cool. Amazing. So, Juanjo, do you want to introduce yourself?
So, hi everyone. My name is Juan. I'm from Madrid, Spain, and I'm representing here Lab Cave Games, which is a company founded in 2013 and now part of the Mobusi Corporation. We are awesome too, although we don't have awesome in the name either.
You see the advantage we got. We're just putting awesome in the name, right?
I'll just say that
also
a qualification for being on this stage right now is being awesome. So, yeah, it was part of the requirements.
Yeah, well, so basically, Lab Cave is a mobile gaming company. We publish and develop games, very casual game. We've developed in the last couple of years more than 400 games for iOS and Android. Especially China is our biggest geo, followed by US and Japan. and we monetize around 90% with ads. So we have a lot of experience dealing with ads and with good guys and with bad guys. So I'm the CMO of the company, so I'm pretty much in charge of the ad monetization together with the ad monetization team. Also new business solution and about partnerships. We run a little of UA. So that's pretty much.
Okay, so where do we come into this as SafeDK? What we do is part of our offering is we have a product that will reflect for app owners the different creatives that the ad network SDKs shows app owners on their application. What are the real users seeing while they're playing the games in real time, and then a little bit of statistics around those creatives. And that's how we are the good guys. So
Josh loves you guys, by the way. So Josh is one of our co-founders.
Yeah. So we met Josh in Tel Aviv on a panel very, very similar to this, and we were the good guys together on that one as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came home. He wouldn't take the T-shirt off when he came home.
Really? Okay. Amazing. All right. So basically, what we're talking about today is obviously we're all here with working with games. We're app owners, we're ad networks, we're kids tech platforms, and so on. And the one thing that we all have in common is that we all kind of work around how do we monetize games and what are the risks involved in choosing to monetize through advertising. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. So just to kind of kick it off, before we dive into it, why don't we start by each of you sharing with us what your favorite game to play is, and it can't be one of your games or your clients. It has to be something else.
Oh, right now? Hold on. I actually gotta look at my phone.
Okay. Juan can start if you need a second to choose a game.
No, I got it. I'm playing Crashlands at the moment.
Crashlands.
And Attack Light, but that's pretty old.
Okay. All right.
I don't have a lot of games on my phone, considering I'm in the gaming industry, which is terrible, right? But I do have a lot of them in my tablet, right? So, essentially, I think like one of the game that I've been playing right now, it's called Ridiculous Fishing. I don't know. It's like a long time ago. I think like it's like 2 years ago or a year ago, but I've only discovered it now, and I kind of like it though. Apart from that, you throw me any game that's very competitive. I'm not really good at playing games in general, but I like competitive games, and I keep on losing a lot. So the games like Vainglory, Clash Royale, like kind of like them.
I'd like to add an addendum to my answer because I forgot I play XCOM on my tablet. It's literally the only thing I have. XCOM is the best thing ever.
Okay.
Which is also very old.
Addendum allowed.
Thank you.
I would say one of my favorite games is Roller Race Escape for Lack Cave, but also playing a lot of like soccer games. So I pretty much play Soccer Heroes. I like it pretty much.
Okay, perfect. So let's dive right into this and start for questions. With app owners. Like we said before, I guess choosing to monetize through advertising, it's a decision. It's a choice that you make as an app owner. How do you make that choice? What is the thought process? What are some of the pros and cons around that decision?
Well, from our side, as I said at the beginning, we develop a lot of different apps. We are right now launching around 35 apps a month, so that's a lot. So basically, every time that we need to decide where to place ads, and if we're using ads for monetization, definitely we need to think about that since the very beginning of the process. So of course, there's a deal for that. In our case, our games are very casual games, so we need to monetize very aggressively our users in order to try to make it worth the time they're spending in our games. Retention is low, LTV is low, so we need to make the most money as possible during this time. But it's true that some of the games are especially focused for some special categories like children, which is like very, as you say, it's a very special category. And definitely there's a lot to do. sometimes we talk to networks, sometimes we're say COPPA compliance and PEGI and everything, but it's like not enough. And sometimes we've had bad experiences precisely with that, because no matter if they are COPPA, no matter if they're PEGI, but like it's okay. I mean, I don't say they are doing on purpose, but they still do it. They are placing ads that children shouldn't see. So yeah. So pretty much like from your question, it's like ads. It's part of our monetization. 90% of the monetization of our games are coming from advertising, but still we need to focus a little bit more on what people are saying, especially if they are children.
I think I'm coming in on a different side of the fence here because of the fact that most of our games, I'd say 50 or 60 or even 80% of our games are mostly mid-core to hardcore games. And being situated in China, mindset being is that, right, let's not put ads in the games, right? Let's focus on the actual IAP that we offer, because a lot of the games that we publish are doing great as it is. Just mainly focusing on live operations and making sure that IAPs are optimized. And then we started publishing casual games, and we started publishing mid-core games. This was circa 2014. And that's when we started to see that, okay, like there is this importance of like making sure that we find other ways as to how we can monetize our game, because at the end of the day, right, if you have a casual game, or if you have a game like, let's say a simulation game, like a farming game of some sort, it's so easy for you to be able to integrate advertising without it being so foreign and alien to the users or the players of the game. So I come in at this on a user experience perspective. Now, there are times where we've contemplated on adding ads to our RPGs or to our strategy games, right? And obviously, like changing the mindset of the product owners is somewhat also difficult, because they go like, "Are you crazy? Are we gonna put videos now on this pretty cool RPG game?" And I go like, "Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we should." Right? It's like CPM is amazing. It's off the roof for this one. And they go like, "All right, CPM, $20. I like the sound of that." All right, we've tried it. There were successes. There were failures, obviously. But I think the thought process into deciding as to whether or not you'd put ad monetization in the game is, number one, on the mid-core to hardcore side, is it going to hamper the user experience, or is it just going to augment it? Because if it will augment the user experience, it will create more leverage on your retention, engaging more users, then yes, my answer is you should include that and contemplate about it. On the mid-core to casual games, I think like we're on the same side on that one. I think monetization should be should be there. And that's just about it.
Okay. I think that's a really interesting point. That's a great answer. Thank you, Chase. So you've made the decision to monetize through advertising. What's your worst ad story? Like without naming names,
I'm totally naming names when it comes to me. But
bad guy. So actually, in our company, all our traffic comes doing ASO, so we run really the user acquisition. So for our company, part of the strategy to grow some apps are part of the Design for Family Will Play feature. So the policy for ads is very, very strict. Precisely for that, we always want to special look at that special, and our Q&A department always pay really close attention to the ads that they're showing. So it was like the first time that we were uploading a game for Design for Family category, and we wanted to make sure that everything was right. So we talked to every account manager, every single ad agency, but it shows an ad about cigarettes. Yeah, so
they weren't the child cigarettes.
No.
They weren't the children's
toy
cigarettes. Oh, such a shame.
Yeah, and the thing is that no, it was real cigarettes. Yeah, I was kidding. But the thing is that we didn't really think that people are gonna be that care about that, but truly people wrote us I mean, we saw that because someone wrote to us. Matt, dad, wrote us an email saying, "How do you show that
Advertise
in your
cigarettes for
design for
children."
family?" That's pretty important because that's part of the strategy of a growth for an app. That's even part of the account setting. So having trouble with that, in this case for the design for family category, it could be very picky and it could be like a trouble for the company.
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you're lucky, someone emails you and says, how are you showing cigarettes to children? If you're unlucky, I mean, most people won't bother. They won't send that email. They won't pick up the phone. They won't complain. They'll just stop using the app or uninstall it. And then you've spent a lot of time and effort kind of trying to acquire these users, and you're losing them for reasons that...
Well, it's also damaging your brand. I mean, this is more or less one of the reasons we started Super Awesome and Totally Awesome.
We should talk later.
Yeah, we should. But I mean, and my background isn't in advertising or ad tech, so I sort of came into the space as a total outsider, and I kind of looked around at what was going on just at the general ad tech market, and I said, holy shit, everyone just needs to be murdered. We need to start the whole thing again. Like, one of those sort of plots in a James Bond movie where the bad guy's going, we need to destroy the planet and build civilization again. Yes. Totally what should happen to the ad tech market right now. And we kind of looked at the kid space and we went, well, look, the problem is that like there's all of this old, well, not old, but like mainstream technology that's being used, which is all fundamentally data driven. And even if you are trying to be compliant, the architecture is built against you, right? And you don't know what is going in there. You don't know how it's been built. When you're dealing with agencies and advertisers, they don't know. So we've spent literally tens of millions of dollars building the tag. We actually built a filter that strips out all the tracking tags out of ads. We actually run a certification program with the agency. So we've gone upstream. We go into the agencies. We certify them on under 13 digital engagement, what to do, what not to do, how to follow COPPA, how to follow GDPR. Like, I could list a whole bunch of shit that we've done. So some of the time you've got bad actors. Most of the time you have people who just don't know. The problem is that, like, as kids have become such a huge constituent of the internet, like, the consequences if something goes wrong kind of gets bigger every day, right? Because it's not, like, you kind of, I think the examples you gave of when people encounter it are good. The other case that can happen, though, is that a journalist sees it, right? And we've all seen countless articles about, my child saw a whatever ad in a game that it really shouldn't have. So it's, and with GDPR now rolling out in the EU, the fines are going to be much, much bigger. So it's we actually, when we work with game developers, we are getting stricter every week. It's like, okay, if you guys can't commit to being under 13, we're not going to work with you. And again, not because we're trying to be dicks or anything like that, but it's like, under 13 is hard. You have to, you can't really be one leg in and one leg out. You're either in or you're not. There really is, right? And I think it's like, so we're weird. We say no to a lot of people. We're super weird, as well as super awesome.
So, Chase, what's your worst ad story?
Worst one? Well, I probably would digress a little bit away from what they're experiencing because I think for me, I'd probably talk about like this on a business perspective in terms of ad experience in general. It may not, it's not going to be as in a specific ad, right? But rather more on being able to work with advertising networks, for example, who would also be more open and sort of like transparent in terms of like how they deal with developers in general. Because sometimes when you're a developer and you're contemplating on, all right, I'm going to start integrating ads into my game, you go like, your first source of knowledge most of the time would be the internet. Well, that's the internet for you. But you go through somebody in a mediation layer company or somebody in an ad network company. And obviously, the thing they're going to hear from these people would be very biased to them, right? And it's sort of like, that would somewhat cloud your judgment in terms of like, is this really the best one for me? And I'm saying this based on experience because that's what I did, right? I did not do my due diligence in such a way where I'm looking at things on a fair and equal manner. And so what happened was The nightmare happened not because of them, because that's how they operate, but because of me, because I was ignorant about how I want to start dealing with advertising networks, because not all of them are created equal. They have different business practices, they have different algorithms, and you are tasked to understand that. Because when you start integrating with them, and when you start integrating that SDK and you start showing ads in your game, that is ultimately their responsibility, but also your responsibility, because you allow them to open you up to advertising. And that's where I saw a lot of like problems in a game that we were publishing some 2 years ago. There were ads about competitors, ads about like excessive show of skin, where it's just too much. It's so excessive, I can't even tell you how excessive it is, right? And given like you live in China, I mean, I'm from China, and obviously like most of the hardcore games, for example, you'd see those anyway. Like, I'm not being a prude about that, but I think that there should be more responsibility coming in on the advertiser end, as well as on the partners that you work with, because at the end of the day, the way you choose the things that you show in your game, you still have control over that, and or the ads that you show,
or you try,
or at least try to at least mitigate things that you notice or things that you see, and that's, I think, something that you.
But I mean,
be aware of.
a lot of the I mean, this is kind of mainstream ad tech, I guess. But like a lot of the challenge of a lot of those ad tech companies and those ad networks is their own business model, right? Because they get to a point where they've got scale and they have to optimize their scale, which means they're trying to automate, which means by definition, they start to have less and less scrutiny in terms of like the contextual targeting. Or whitelists or blacklists or things like that, and they kind of become victims of their own business model a little bit. It's a tough sector.
Yeah, that's a tough part. But yes, that's true. I completely agree. I mean, in as much as like, okay, I go to a network and say, hey, can you whitelist or blacklist all of these things right here? And then next thing you know, it's still there, and you go like, did you guys do it? Like, yeah, we did. And
but behind the scenes, they have delivery targets, right? And if their campaign doesn't deliver, they lose money from wherever they were sourcing from. I mean, look, I'm not defending the ad network world. Just to be clear, I think they should all be burnt down and murdered in any order that you want.
Okay, so I definitely think that maybe a little too aggressive, just a tiny bit. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's up to the app owners to kind of decide who you work with, how you work with them, and then also, and saying this as, the representative of SafeDK and our own tool, have a way to kind of monitor that and control that, because the ad networks, who Dylan here thinks are, the source of all the evil in the world, they don't always know themselves. I mean, it's all programmatic, right? So sometimes it's not about, a business practice or the way that they decide to do business, but just the algorithm can't always differentiate. And I think this is a good time to like tell my worst ad story. So until yesterday, I had the worst ad story where there was a big game, one of our clients, and basically it was a casual game that was played by, kids and families and things like that. And they had an ad running that asked, "Are you addicted to porn?" And yeah, and they knew that the ad was running. They could not track it down. Because people complained. But today I have a whole new story where this just happened yesterday. So this is the funniest. I think I showed this to Juan yesterday. It's basically a picture of a pickle, and it refers to, pickles, but not in the way that we know pickles. Basically, it asks, it refers to how small pickles are women's worst nightmare, and then how all men over 45 need to know about this specific product. And that is now my worst ad story. Yeah.
It's also the best. It's also the best.
A computer would never catch this. I mean, the algorithm would not catch this as inappropriate. I mean, it's a pickle, you know. It's just a picture of a small pickle.
Right, but I mean, this is the challenge with the ad tech industry. I mean, it's and the more that like the new dollars coming into the space are being sucked up essentially by Google and Facebook, the more challenged like all the third party ad players in the mainstream market are becoming, right? So they're all scrambling for proportionately less and less dollars out there, right? So it means the consequences of them not delivering or not hitting their reach targets or whatever, like, just get larger and larger. Like, it's tough.
Yeah.
To be clear,
a tough space.
Not defending.
Yeah,
it.
no, it's a tough space. You know, there's a lot of competition. Everyone wants to do the very best business-wise. And then there are aggressive business practices that come into play here. So what's your worst ad story?
Well, the weird thing is that because we only operate in the kid space, we don't have them. I mean, I would say, like, on the demand side, because we literally only work with kids brands. So, you know, all the big toy cos and studios and everything else. So we self-select and we only work with under 13. So we, by definition, nothing can come into the walled garden. I think the stuff that we see probably is more on in terms of actual publisher behavior, in terms of you know, and this is not publishers being bad, but the challenge in the kids space is that your fill rates are typically very low because again, it's an early space. So one of the things that, you know, you'll have someone who let's say also builds casual games or midcore or anything like that, and they're used to 100% fill, even if your eCPM is down at whatever 10, 12 cents, and you come to the kid space and you sort of go, okay, so your fill rates are like 10% or 12%, but you're getting $15 CPMs or 10 or 20 or whatever, and it's just a very different dynamic. And the natural reaction is, okay, we're going to go premium, and then we're going to backfill everything else with the waterfall of these third-party networks, and we'll turn on the family flag, and it'll be fine.
That's totally what we did.
That shit bites you in the ass.
We're just for kids, and then we just.
It bites you in the ass, like, and again, it's that's why with publishers that we tell them straight up, it's like it's not really fair, but you kind of have to pick, right? And so, just to give you an example, I mean, with some publishers, let's say, who run desktop publishers who run like a lot of mini games on a site, like what we've seen is they will then syndicate out those games. So you end up, if you've integrated ads running on their games, they're not telling you where they're syndicating them. So they're ending, which again could be getting re-syndicated again. So all of a sudden that content is ending up like 3 or 4 steps removed from where you thought it was. And all of a sudden that brand is potentially being seen beside pickle ads or anything like that, right? And so I mean, the kid space is kind of specific, right? Because it's going through a big change. But it's definitely, like, I personally, I think that anyone who's in the digital content space should be doing both IAP and ads. You know, I think you've got to try and build out that way and focus on the best experience for the user and the most relevant ads. Because ultimately it's going to be down to CTR or engagement anyway, right? In terms of performance. So it would be on the publisher behavior side.
Okay. Cool. So I guess looping back around to Chase's answer, is that part of the process in choosing choosing ad networks to work with? Does that come into play when you choose ad networks?
Yes, it does.
What are some of the qualities?
Well, the thing
that you're looking for.
Well, I look for 3 things generally when I say, okay, like there's a game that we want to do IAP in as well as ads monetization, and we go like, all right, how do we choose an ad network, or who do we choose, right? Typically we go with a mediation layer, right? And even that requires your due diligence in terms of like what kind of business model they have, because not all mediation layer are made equal, right? Some of them have their own sort of like network that they pass around as well, right? So basically, if say for example you choose with one mediation layer to basically hold all of these ad networks within, you must also understand that, you know, they have to make money as well, and there's somewhere that they need to do for them to be able to make money as a mediation layer. Otherwise, then are they giving out the service for free, right? Once you understand that, and once you know the risk, once you understand exactly how they operate, then you move on in choosing your ad network partners. I choose them based on 3 things. I choose them based on the type of demand that they have as a network, like what kind of inventory that they have. I choose them based on looking at it on a business perspective. What kind of deal we can get from them? Can we do fixed eCPM, or like are they going to pitch into user acquisition at some point, right? So all of these things can be talked about. Are they flexible enough to work with as a company, right? And also the technology, right? Sometimes I look at it because sometimes some networks API reporting is very, very slow, so you just really can't get the reports as timely as possible, and that sort of like delays your decision making in terms of like how you're going to optimize, the whole thing that you do with monetizing your game. So yeah, so I guess I look at it in three things. Like I look at it on a business perspective, I look at it on a demand perspective, and I look at it on a technology perspective, and from there we start working with them.
Does reputation ever come into play here?
It does for some reason. I think that's just like a natural human bias for everybody to say that, oh, okay, you're a fairly established ad network. I'm going to work with you because, they have a fairly good reputation, or the business talks good about them. But obviously your experience will still be different from those of that who spoke highly of these networks. And I could attest to that because a lot of times, not games are created the same. Sometimes in China, for example, most of the games that we publish are created based on their own game engine. So they have a lot of like this whole proprietary game engine. We're going to be doing the game, not out of Unity, not out of whatever game engine they want to use, or Cocos or whatever. But instead, they want to do it the way they want to do it in China. And sometimes it's just really, really incompatible when you're working with networks wherein you don't test their SDK and you integrate, and like for some odd reason, like it just doesn't work out for you. And so that one too, like I guess on the technology side, like I guess before I sign, I test out the SDK first just to make sure that it works fairly well with the game that I'm integrating in.
Juan?
Yeah, so from our side, I would say reputation is the most important feature in order to select an ad network. Of course, CPM is the best. It's the best KPI when you are considering, at least you're just giving a try and considering. Of course, it has to be easy to integrate with your mediation. But at the end of the day, for our company, reputation is the most important. So you need to build trusted relationship with the people you need to go to, you need to meet them, you need to set calls, you need to feel that. I don't like to talk about feeling, but I think it's very important in business, because when you talk to the people, no matter if it's on Skype or if it's face-to-face better, but if it's on Skype, you can talk to other partners, you can ask for references. There you can see a lot of things that normally you can see on a web page, on an official web page, on a corporate web page. And for us, it's very important that. So meeting the people, trying to figure out how they work, try to ask for references to other people. And then, of course, besides the eCPN, high eCPN, and of course, easy to integrate with our mediation.
Do you ever look to see what other apps are using this ad network and then compare, I have a game that's similar to this, maybe?
No, we haven't done that.
Okay.
We have so many apps, so for us, the process is kind of different from, for instance, what he says. So we try to see everything as a whole. Okay. We have like volume line now. We are developing a mid-core project, so there the ad experience is going to be more. It's going to be slightly different, radically different, I would say, from what we are doing now. But in this, in our cash cow where we have all these games, we cannot go into that much detail.
Right. Dylan, have you ever said no to a client? You've talked about saying no to partners. Have you ever said, I won't work with you as an ad network or an ad platform for kids?
In terms of brands and agencies, they all go through, we have multiple layers of certification. So even when they would send ad creative into us, all of that ad creative goes through our content review in terms of text, images. It's served through COPA compliant tech. So it's almost by definition, we make sure they're not inappropriate. I would say the bigger issues are the agencies, because we deal directly with the agencies and the advertisers. And the issue is those groups not being able to keep up with the changes in kids' data privacy law.
Okay.
and not realizing how strict it's getting. So, I mean, you see the FTC fining companies more and more heavily now. GDPR, the EU is going to start fining companies, and you'll have agencies, let's say in different territories, that'll come to us and will say, well, we want to drop these trackers into this tag. And we're saying, sorry guys, no, it's just not happening. And they said, but we do this in all these other verticals. And we said, that's lovely. This is a totally different vertical. This is what you're not allowed to do. And we're actually now seeing the major media holding companies who are actually rolling out COPPA standards and policies across all of their groups. So it's getting more and more understood. So we don't sort of reject them on the basis of content, because we can fix that.
Right.
But we do reject them on the basis of tracking policies or cookies or anything like that.
Okay.
But we like ultimately, everything that we do is about reputation on both sides, right? And the audience is the most sensitive audience in the world, so we're not going to take any chances whatsoever.
Right. So for you, it's mostly about reputation, like
it's everything, right? Because it's performance too. Like,
right.
Ultimately, the ad creative has got to perform. So from a developer publisher perspective, everything has got to be integrated correctly there. The advertiser and the brand has got to be happy about it. I would say where things are getting quite interesting is now that we rolled out a kid-safe programmatic platform and we're integrating with the major exchanges, and we're having some fascinating arguments with those guys where we kind of roll in saying, okay, guys, we open the meeting by basically saying, here's all the things you're not allowed to do. And they kind of go, whoa, no one's ever said that to us before. We're whoever, right? And we're saying, well, that's the law in under 13, right? So, so the programmatic works by essentially running the demand through our filter, stripping it out. So any brand or advertiser can now safely buy kids inventory through that program, through that exchange, which then kind of goes through us. But we have to go in and be very firm on them and saying you just can't do these things. And no, like if you don't know the kid space, you kind of go, wow, these guys are real dicks. They're not letting us do anything. And we're just like, this is, my charming personality is known throughout the industry, except that one guy.
So, is there ever a red line for you in advertising? Things that you would say, you know what?
Pickles.
Yeah. Do you have your own pickles?
Well, for our company, to be honest, there's not red line on this volume line that we have so many games. Just if inside this category we have some games for kids, for the design for family kids, for the design for family category, then definitely we will look after that especially, and definitely we draw red lines there. But otherwise, for right now, for this volume line, CPN is who rules.
It is where it is.
In the mid-core project that we are developing right now, it's going to be different. It's going to be different because we really want to have a deeper understanding on how the ads it's going on there and how the ads are being engaged with the users and everything. So we need to take a closer look there. But so far, no.
Okay. Chase, quickly, because I just got the 5-minute flag.
5-minute one?
I don't know how the time has gone by so fast.
That's how good a conversation
was. You have
was.
such good answers. I don't want to stop you because I'm actually like, I love your answers.
For me, I have no red line as well, especially if I'm actually putting a specific game that's within the mid-core to the hardcore space. In fact, the kinds of ads that you see there are somewhere along the lines of pickles, right? But obviously, like you gotta do your due diligence. Like when you're working with games that's accessible to mostly kids, like, below 13 or 3 and below, then definitely, out of good conscience, you at least have to do your part in making sure you're policing at the very least what you can do to make ads as, rated parental guidance as possible.
So basically, I think that what you guys are saying is as long as it works in terms of ROI, then you're okay with that.
As long as it works and as long as it does not promote anything that is unhealthy to the kind of audience that you are working with.
Okay.
So that for me, there will always be a borderline. I mean, there was this one ad that I saw where basically it's all pixelated, like a person dancing. It's all pixelated, but it's basically trying to bring out that message that this person is nude and that, you know, you're just basically censoring that thing. And that one, I'm like, no, you shouldn't do this. Like, and that one, like, I probably draw the line at that because that's sort of like, just no. Plus, that person is a really bad dancer, so I'm like, I can't take that.
Okay, great. So let's just jump a few forward to the very last question and kind of the focus of this panel and what we're talking about here today. And the big question, okay, is there a balance between monetizing the users and losing them? So, like the panel title says, are all dollars made equal in the long run?
For me, there is, and it's hard and it's difficult, but you at least gotta try, right? In terms of trying to put that level of balance between monetizing them and losing them in the long run. I think that what we have to think about as far as monetizing our users are concerned, for me being that I'm not just exclusively working with casual games, my primary concern would always be user experience. And if it defeats the purpose of the entire game that I'm promoting, if it defeats the purpose of them playing and instead becomes an ad-driven app with just a game on the side, then I'm probably going to stay away from that. That's not my goal. That's not the way I want to make my game successful.
So you're saying there is such a thing as bad money, even if the immediate ROI is positive. There is such a thing.
And I mean, like, you know, like, you might say, oh, okay, well, that's very hypercritical. Like, you know, that's money. Like, who would say no to money? Right? But at the end of the day, it's just based, I have nothing against anyone who decides otherwise, because at the end of the day, these are personal and business decisions that each and everyone is willing to live with, right? And if they go this way or if they go this way, like, who am I to tell them exactly that they're not supposed to be doing that? Because I'll do the thing that I feel and my boss and the company personally agrees with as well.
Juan, what do you think? Is there such a thing as bad money?
I'm on the other side, so as
perfect. Yes, let's get this going now. Let's get this going now.
Yeah, so basically, as casual game publishers and developers, we need to accept reality as it is, and for us, long-term the retention is very low. Even mid-term retention is very low. So we need to pay. We need to pay the bills.
Right. Maybe you should just forget the game thing and just start an ad network.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, maybe
just go straight to
straight to the ads, or release apps that's the thing. Like, look at the best ads on the market, kind of thing.
Well, the thing is, in all the 400 games that we have right now in the market, we have tiers. In some of them, we don't really care about how much ads we are using, or not even how ads. And it's true. It's funny because we ran a test a couple of years ago when I just joined the company where we took out some ads and KPIs went down. So retention went down, session length went down, although there was no ads. So we're saying, well, so maybe if it's all
maybe the users expect
so let's show ads.
Yeah.
So at the end, it's like, yeah. So let's monetize. I totally agree with him that when you are on the other side, like more mid-core games, you need to take a special look to that. Of course, if you are for design for family or for kids or special categories, it's true. But from our side, like just large audiences, casual game, let's show me the money.
Okay. Dylan, your thoughts in 15 seconds or less?
I'm Irish. I don't do anything in 15 seconds or less. I think the ultimately it's got to be the relevance of the ad, right?
Okay.
I mean, because if it's not relevant, you're not going to get engagement, and your performance is going to go down over time, and that's just how advertising works. And I think it's speaking, I suppose, from an advertiser perspective, it's not that they're spending money blindly. They want to spend more money, but money that works. So ultimately, I think it's long term, it has to be relevant. I think what that means then in terms of your demand structure and whether you're doing it even yourself or you're doing it with specialists or whatever, I think there's some interesting questions there, because whether you can truly long-term get relevant ads with a kind of a mass, large-scale ad solution, I don't know. I wonder about it.
Okay. So I wonder about it, I think, is a good conclusion for the question, is there such a thing as bad money when the immediate ROI is positive? Or, as the panel title says, are all dollars made equal? So I guess that's where we'll conclude for today. Thank you guys so much for joining the panel and for your amazing answers. I think that we got a good combination of opinions here. So thank you so much.
I think we can all agree this was the best panel.
I agree. I mean,
Awesome panel?
it's an awesome panel. An awesome panel.
Thank you very much. We learned more about pickles there than we expected to.
Thank you guys for coming and seeing us today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.